You've made sales. You've moved products. You've put in the work. And yet at the end of the month, the numbers don't add up the way they should. You're busy. But you're not building. You're selling. But you're not growing. In almost every case like this, the problem is not the product. It's not the market. It's the price. Specifically, it's a price that was never calculated correctly in the first place. Today we fix that permanently. Most sellers price their products in one of three wrong ways. First, they guess. They look at the product, they think about what feels right, and they pick a number. Second, they copy competitors. They find out what someone else charges and match it or go slightly lower. Third, they price based on emotion. They feel bad charging too much, so they price low to avoid rejection. All three of these methods have one thing in common: none of them are based on what the product actually costs you to deliver. And that is exactly why so many sellers are busy and broke at the same time. Before you can price correctly, you must know exactly what it costs you to deliver your product or service. Not roughly. Not approximately. Exactly. Every single cost that touches that product before it reaches the customer must be counted. Cost price or production cost. Packaging. Transport or delivery. Marketing spend. Time. Because your time has a value even if you haven't assigned one to it yet. Platform fees if you sell online. Every single one. Most sellers only count the cost price, the amount they paid for the item. And they build their price on an incomplete foundation. Which means every calculation after that is wrong. Let me show you this with real numbers so it becomes concrete. Say you're selling a product. You bought it for $500. Packaging costs you $30. Delivery to the customer is $50. You spent $20 on data and marketing for this item. And the time you spent sourcing, messaging, packaging, sending. Let's value conservatively at $50. Your total cost is not $500. Your total cost is $650. If you priced this item at $700 because you bought it for $500 and wanted a $200 margin, your real profit is not $200. It is $50. That is a 7% margin on a product you worked hard to move. That is not a business. That is expensive volunteering. Now that you know your true cost, here is the formula that fixes your pricing permanently. It is called the margin-based pricing formula. And it works for any product, any market, any seller. The formula is this: selling price equals total cost divided by 1 minus your desired profit margin as a decimal. Let me say that again slowly because this is the most important thing in this video. Selling price equals total cost divided by 1 minus desired margin. This formula ensures that no matter what margin you want, 20%, 30%, 50%, your price reflects it accurately. Not based on feeling. Based on mathematics. Let me walk you through why this formula works and what each part means. Total cost, you already know this. Every expense that touches your product. The desired margin is the percentage of the final selling price you want to keep as profit. Not profit on top of cost, profit as a percentage of the final price. This distinction matters. When you divide by 1 minus the margin, you are working backwards from the selling price to guarantee that percentage is baked in. This means if you sell at $950 with a 30% margin, $285 of every sale is profit. Automatically. Every time. No guessing. No hoping. Built into the price from the beginning. Here is where most sellers get confused, and it costs them money silently. There is a difference between margin and markup. And they are not the same thing. Markup is profit calculated as a percentage of your cost. Margin is profit calculated as a percentage of your selling price. Here is why it matters. If your total cost is $650 and you add a 30% markup, You add $195 and sell at $845. Your margin on that $845 is actually only 23%. Not 30. You thought you were making 30%. You were making 23%. If you quoted a buyer a 30% margin to a business partner or investor and you were actually using markup, you have been misrepresenting your profitability. Know which one you are using. And use margin because it reflects what you actually keep. So what margin should you be targeting? The answer depends on your product category and market. But here are the benchmarks every seller should know. For physical resale products, minimum 25% margin. Ideally 35 to 50%. For handmade or self-produced items, minimum 40%. Ideally 60% or more. Because your time investment is higher. For digital products like ebooks or guides, 70 to 90% margin is achievable because once created, the cost to deliver each copy is nearly zero. For services, 50% minimum because your time is your only inventory. If your current margins are below these benchmarks, your prices need to go up. Not because you are greedy. Because you are running a business, not a charity. Getting your price right mathematically is only half the work. The other half is how you present that price. Because the same number can feel expensive or feel like a bargain. Depending entirely on how it is framed. Rule 1. Always anchor high before revealing the price. Mention the value. The result. The transformation first. So the number lands in context. Rule 2. Never apologize for your price. The moment you say, I know it might seem like a lot, and just like that, you have already told the buyer it is too much. Rule 3. Give options where possible. A low, mid, and high tier makes the mid-tier feel like the sensible choice. And people almost always choose the middle. What about existing customers? If you have been underpricing, and now you need to raise, how do you do it without losing the people you have built relationships with? Here is the approach. First, never raise prices suddenly with no communication. Give existing customers notice. Second, frame the increase around added value. What has improved? What they are now getting more of. Third, offer a loyalty window. A short period where existing customers can buy at the old price before the increase kicks in. This makes them feel respected, not ambushed. Fourth, be confident and don't over-explain. A long defensive justification signals guilt. A calm, clear statement signals professionalism. Your price is going up because your business is growing. Say it like that. Now let's talk about discounting. Because this is where many sellers unknowingly destroy their brand and their margins at the same time. Discounting is not a sales strategy. It is a tool. And like any tool, when used correctly it helps. Used incorrectly it causes damage. When discounting works. For clearing old stock. For rewarding genuine loyalty. For a time-limited campaign with a clear end date. When discounting destroys you. When it becomes your default selling technique. When you discount to avoid having a real conversation about value. When buyers start waiting for your discount instead of buying at full price. That last point is critical. The moment buyers learn to wait for your discount, you have trained them never to pay full price again. Every seller must know their break-even point. This is the minimum number of units you need to sell, or the minimum revenue you need to generate, before you start making actual profit. The formula is simple. Break-even units equals your fixed costs, divided by your selling price, minus your variable cost per unit. Fixed costs are expenses you pay regardless of how many you sell, rent, subscription fees, any monthly overhead. Variable costs change with each unit. Packaging, delivery, cost price. Knowing your break-even tells you exactly how many sales you need before a single dollar of profit enters your pocket. Without this number, you are flying completely blind. Once you have a mathematically sound price, test it. Pricing is not a one-time decision. It is an ongoing discovery. Here is how to test without risking your business. Start by listing the same product at 2 different price points in different markets or to different audiences. Track conversion rate. What percentage of people who see the price actually buy? Track the quality of buyer. Higher-priced products often attract buyers with less friction, fewer complaints, and more loyalty. And track your emotional response to the price. If you feel uncomfortable saying it out loud, that discomfort is your own unresolved belief about your worth. The market will rarely tell you your price is too high if you present the value correctly. Most sellers are their own ceiling. Before you price your next product, run it through this checklist. 1. Have I calculated every single cost price, packaging, delivery, marketing, time, and fees? 2. Have I used the margin-based formula, not a guess or a competitor copy? 3. Is my margin at or above the benchmark for my product category? 4. Do I know my break-even number for this month? 5. Have I prepared how I will present this price, anchoring value before stating the number? 6. Have I decided in advance what my discount policy is, so I don't discount reactively? If you can answer yes to all 6, your pricing is no longer a weakness. It is a weapon. You now have the formula, the benchmarks, the psychology, and the checklist. Your pricing will never be guesswork again. Now I know this video might seem challenging to some of you, but do not worry too much about that. And do not stress too much if you did not get it at the first time. The next video we will be looking into the psychological reason of why people buy. You definitely don't want to miss that one. And if you haven't already, hit that notification icon and subscribe to the channel. And drop a comment of what product you have been selling or planning to sell. I want to know. New lessons every week. I'll see you in the next one.